The last ballast motor we looked at was number 93U. This one, as you can see, is number 99U. Both in the same class and both built in the same period, but as you've observed, quite different. This one has a totally enclosed cab on it and has been fitted with a tower. Now the reason for that is that this tram was selected in 1933 to work on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, because after the conversion, as you may remember I told you earlier, from a railway to a tramway use, they found they couldn't drive the tower wagons over the bridge, over the track work, to maintain the overhead wire. So they took this particular ballast motor out of regular service, fitted it with a tower, put the cabs on, and this was used on the Sydney Harbour Bridge until its closure. The tram was normally stored down in Wynyard Tunnel and only came out on Tuesday nights between midnight and dawn when the bridge servicing was done. For the first 12 or 18 months the tram did not have a cab on it, but I'm told by one of the workmen who used to work on it that it got very, very cold out there on the harbour in the middle of July when the westerly was blowing, and they complained bitterly to the department, who took some 18 months to fit the protection onto the front. Another point of interest about these towers, of course, is that they were originally constructed for horse-drawn vehicles, and these tower wagons used to operate around being horse-drawn by 2 horses. Once the horses were phased out and motor vehicles took over, these towers were then fitted to the motor vehicles. This one, of course, obviously ending up on the tram. The only other little feature about this car, because of its operation on the Harbour Bridge of interest, is during the wartime. Now, most of you perhaps are not aware that the Sydney Harbour Bridge was totally out of bounds during the war period. Civilians were a real no-no. You were just not allowed anywhere near that bridge. So, believe it or not, in order for the civilian workmen to get onto the bridge on a Tuesday night, it required something of a ritual. First, the depot master had to apply to the commander, I think it was at North Head, or George's Heights, whatever it's called, for permission to go onto the bridge. He was then issued with a permit, and this permit had to be shown to the guards on the approach to the bridge before they would allow the tram on with the civilians on board. Also, they had to carry a lieutenant with them. This lieutenant had to travel on the tram, and I'm told by that same authority that he would spend most of his time sound asleep in the back compartment while the men carried on their work. Incidentally, the work had to be done by torchlight, so as you came to each insulator or each feeding item on the tramway overhead wire, you only had to have a quick look with a flashlight to see if there was anything wrong and then turn it off again, because obviously the bridge was the #1 target and lights were also taboo. The interesting thing, of course, is that on your way onto the bridge, the number of occupants of the tram were religiously counted, and as the tram passed off the bridge, you had to have an equal number of people. Otherwise, there's possibility some saboteur may be left on the bridge ready to drop a bomb on some passing warship. So, knowing how the army is, of course, they were very meticulous with their rules and regulations. So, this little tram had a little niche in wartime history.